If you would like to ask another question or would like to share your own video or picture, please send it to education@fotzkc.org. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoy this segment of Zoosdays.
Good morning. My name's Kelly.
I'm Jessica. Hi, everyone.
We are at the Kansas City Zoo. This is our education building at the Kansas City Zoo. It's our wonderful resource room, so we have a wonderful backdrop. And we'd like to welcome everybody to our very first Zoosday. What is a Zoosday, you ask? Well, technically it's a Tuesday, but you insert the word zoo. Either way, it's fabulous. It'll be great. It'll be bigger than Taco Tuesday. And really, it's just a replacement in the times we're living in. We can't go visit schools. We can't go to libraries. We can't go to places because it's just not safe for us or you guys. So what's the replacement? You get to visit us here, and we get to pretend visit with you guys somewhere on the other end of the camera. And that is a Zoosday. So let's get started with our very first one, which I'm going to turn over to Jessica to go over what we're doing today.
Fantastic. So today we're going to talk about what it takes to be a keeper at the Kansas City Zoo. Now, I know that some of you probably have some ideas about what's involved in keeping, but we're going to focus on three main areas, and that's going to help us learn what it actually takes to be a keeper, and in order to be a keeper, what that does for the animals here at the zoo. We'll be focusing on three main things right over here on our board. The first one we're going to talk about is diets, which means food. What are we feeding our animals and why? How does that help them? The second one we're going to talk about is cleaning. This is a big part of any zookeeper's day. They spend a lot of time doing it, but again, for very good reasons. The last one is a new word you might not have heard of before. It's enrichment, which are different things that help an animal think and move and be active. And so this is also a critical part, very important to what it takes to care for an animal at the zoo.
All right, we're going to start with a video about diets. As everybody knows, everything needs to eat. Whether you're a chimpanzee to a hippo or a polar bear, everybody needs food to survive. Now here's the catch. A lot of the foods that our animals eat here at the zoo are very different than what we would eat in our normal homes. For example, a swamp monkey wouldn't find necessarily apples and oranges. It would find fruit that it would be living in the forest. A red panda, like you see here, would find bamboo. Bamboo doesn't live or grow in Missouri. So we have to sometimes be somewhat creative in how we make sure that animals get exactly what they need, just like we do when we're eating. Even this beautiful rhinoceros, who is very muddy, is enjoying some lovely grass. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper after this cute little porcupine eats her sweet potato into what animals eat and who needs what and how much. So here we have on this beautiful table a bunch of different foods. Some of these are going to look very familiar to you, stuff you find in your refrigerator or in your cabinet. Some of these things are not going to look very familiar at all. And that's okay, because they are pretty much just here at the zoo. We'll start with this stuff right here. This may or may not be something you know what it is, but it's called hay. And hay is really just a dried version of grasses that you would see if you're driving along the highway in the middle of Kansas or Missouri and you see big giant fields. It's this stuff, just in the green, fresh version. This is now the dried version. So it's like grass jerky, if you will. And this grass jerky, or hay, is fed to so many animals here at the zoo. In fact, this guy right here, this elephant, needs a lot of hay. Elephants are very large, as you know, so they go through a lot of this hay every single day because they would eat a lot of grasses in Africa. All right, so let's see, what else here? Oh, I know. This one looks nice and familiar. This is some very yummy smelling watermelon. I feel like I'm doing a cooking show right now. This very delicious looking watermelon is a fruit. And while maybe not all of our animals may see or find this kind of watermelon in the wild, a lot of them very much enjoy it. So let's see, I bet hippopotamuses would enjoy it, or, oh, this is a great example. This nice gorilla right here would definitely enjoy some delicious watermelon. I bet that elephant would too. Oh, let's see, what else do we have here? Let's go with something crazy and unusual. How about these right here? I'll put them in the bowl here so Stephen can get a good look. These are primate biscuits. You're thinking, well, they kind of look like something I don't want to touch or eat. You're probably correct, but technically I could eat them if I wanted to. Really, all these are primate, and primate, another word that you might be more familiar with, is monkeys or chimpanzees. Primates would need these, and it'd be kind of like their cereal, because they can't get all the things from watermelon and apples and all that other stuff. So I bet this gorilla here would eat it. So as you can see, there are all different kinds of things. All these things in these dishes here are basically cereals for these animals. In fact, this cereal right here that smells very fruity, doesn't look like Fruity Pebbles, but kind of smells like it. This animal right here, this macaw, loves that. And it's delicious, and when we mix it with some apples and oranges and even some corn on the cob, all kinds of stuff, are things that we feed our animals, so depends on the animal, and you connect it with what they need to eat to be healthy. So I have a friend right here coming to me who looks like he just woke up. Hello, sir. Hi. So this guy right here that might come to me is a red-footed tortoise. Hi. Is it too early for you? It is too early for you. Anyway, Red right here is, like I said, a red-footed tortoise. He comes to us from South America. He has lived here at the zoo for quite some time and has gotten quite used to eating the various things that we provide him that would match his diet in the wild. He would eat a lot of plants, fruits, vegetables. This watermelon right here is normally one of his top foods, but I think he's a little sleepy. He fell asleep in his box, and now he's not even hungry. Come on, bud. You got this. You got this. You can do it. Oh. Red is a very charming little fellow. Actually, he's not very little at all, but as you know, he's not as big as some of the tortoises out there. But he definitely loves his fruits and vegetables, normally. We all have our days, apparently. You thinking about it, Red? He's thinking about it. Yeah? You can do it, bud. He's using that nose. He's using his eyes. In fact, tortoises are very attracted to brightly colored foods, like this watermelon normally. He also likes tomatoes and dandelions, oddly enough. I know probably your parents aren't fond of dandelions, but there's a lot of animals here that love them. And Red, I don't think is going to eat for us, but that's okay. Take my word for it. He loves watermelon. So I'm going to throw it over to our next video. Unfortunately, what goes in the diets must come back out. And it is in relation to cleaning. Animals are messy creatures. So it takes a lot of time and effort for our zookeepers to make sure those exhibits are nice and clean for our animals. So really there's three main parts. There's shoveling, as you see right here. That's elephant. There's a lot of shoveling with that. there's scrubbing, and there's hosing. Those are the three main parts of cleaning. That cleaning is very, very important to keep our animals nice and healthy. It wouldn't be great if an animal were walking around and living in its own poop. So we try to make sure those exhibits are nice and clean all the time, or at least once a day, if not more than that. Some of our friends like goats, man, they're messy little critters, but that's okay. All right, now here comes the fun part. You guys out there, your parents are going to love this part. You guys out there are going to learn how to clean. Ha-ha. You didn't think you would get to learn how to clean. You just assume that it comes naturally. It is not. It is a learned characteristic. So I have my broom right here. And let's pretend there's all kinds of goat poop, since I mentioned goats. Goats will pretty much poop and walk at the same time. So you take your broom, one hand at the top, another hand somewhere in the middle here, and you bring the broom towards you. You're thinking, well, that's silly. Why would I want to sweep the poop towards me? Well, I'm making a pile with this, in which I will then take my other handy dandy zookeeper tool, which is this beautiful shovel, and, ooh, I'm getting tricky here. I'm going to wrap my arm around the other one and sweep the poop into the shovel. Now my shovel is a dustpan. I don't need a dustpan. Also, goats make lots of messes, so a little dustpan is not going to last very long. Jessica, do you have beautiful poop for us?
I sure do, and I can't wait to share that with you guys. Now, poop might be a word that you think sounds a little funny, but it's actually a scientific term, which means that it's a word that scientists and zookeepers use in their work every day. Now, here in front of me, I have some poop. How silly is that? But poop is very important when keepers are taking care of an animal because it can give us lots of information about that animal. Now, for example, poop comes in different sizes and shapes and colors and textures. It has different things inside of it. This one, for example, belongs to a pretty big sized animal. It belongs to this guy right here, a hippo. Now, hippos have poop that is going to tell us what they eat. If we look closely at this poop, we're going to see lots of grass and hay, just like we talked about the elephant eating. And we can see that this poop is clumped together into a nice lump right here. That's going to tell us that this hippo is eating the foods it should eat to keep it healthy, and that it's the right shape and color to let us know this animal is feeling good. Now, animals like this one right here cannot tell us if they're feeling bad or feeling good. This animal, I'll bet you can recognize, happens to be a lion. And lions have very different poop from hippos because lions are not eating grass. So if we look closely at theirs, we're actually going to see some hair and fur in their poop that comes from the food that they eat. So we know that because this has hair and fur and not grass in it, this lion has been eating everything it should. If we go over here to this big poop, it's almost as big as my head. This is going to come from not a tiny animal, but a huge animal. And we are going to see that this one also has a lot of grasses in it. What large animal did we talk about earlier that ate grass such as hay? That's right, the elephant. So elephants are going to produce a large amount of poop that the keepers are going to have to clean up every day. Now, some animals, like the goats that Kelly talked about, produce poop that is very tiny in little pellets or balls and is scattered around. And that's going to take keepers quite a long time to clean up because all those little pellets are going to have to be picked up. And if we are a keeper working in this animal's yard, this animal right here that's taller than I am, we are looking at a giraffe. Giraffes are going to have poop that is scattered wherever they happen to be. And so keepers are going to have to spend more time moving around their yard, cleaning up all these little balls of poop. Now, Kelly has a very special friend that we're going to meet who actually has poop that's a little similar to the giraffes, even though this animal is much smaller and does not have a long neck.
Thanks, Jessica. So this little guy right here is Blue our chinchilla. Everybody say hello to Blue. Yes, I know he's not actually the color blue, but he is a pretty amazing little guy. Believe it or not, Blue the chinchilla eats a lot of grasses just like that giraffe that Jessica just mentioned does. And Blue, believe it or not, poops a lot. Now, of course, he's much, much smaller than a giraffe, so his poop is much smaller itself. But he really doesn't care where he poops, so when we clean his house, it is pretty much all over the place. We just have to make sure that his poop looks nice and solid and normal to make sure Blue is feeling nice and healthy, because you know, he really just can't tell us exactly how he's feeling. I think he's feeling pretty good today. He looks pretty fluffy and ready to go, considering this is his bedtime. So this is Blue, our chinchilla, who poops wherever he pleases, and we love him for it anyway. All right, so we're going to move on to our last part of being a phenomenal zookeeper, and that is enrichment. Enrichment comes in so many different shapes and sizes because we have different animals, and really enrichment is just a way to keep an animal entertained, keep them from getting bored, because as we all know, being bored, it really kind of stinks. It's kind of dull. Well, it's boring. So we sometimes do all different kinds of things, and we try to mix it up. In fact, Jessica here in a minute is going to go over 5 different kinds of enrichment, 5 different ways of entertaining our animals, whether it's blowing bubbles to our elephants or penguins watching penguins. Who knew that would be entertaining? I think it's probably confusing to this penguin right now, but that's okay. Enrichment comes in all shapes and forms, and you know, a lot of our animals, we look at them and think, gosh, what would they be doing in the wild, and how can we try to match that here at the zoo? So this is a painted dog from Africa. What our keeper is doing is training it. If you have a pet at home, you might train your dog or fish or cat to do various things, and it's a lot of fun because it's both fun for you and your pet to grow that relationship. And of course, one of the best enrichments is food, because basically it's a treat like a cupcake or a birthday cake that you don't always get all the time. And that's the beauty of enrichment, that it doesn't happen all the time. It can't be the same thing, because you know what? That means it's going to become boring. No matter if it's a sprinkler spraying you on a hot day or a ball and your friend just won't leave you alone with that ball. Brother or sister too, I assume. There's all different ways that you can enrich animals. Jessica, can you go over those 5 different ways?
I would love to. So like Kelly said, there are 5 different forms of enrichment, and we're going to talk about those. So remember, enrichment is something that makes an animal move and think and be active. So the first one we're going to talk about, number 1, is movement. Now, I'll bet you have some different activities at home that you like to do that help you move. And here on my table, I have some great enrichment items. One of these is this big, hard plastic, very hard spool right here. Now this spool used to be a nice cylinder or round tube of plastic, but you can see someone sunk their teeth into it a little deep and ripped a hole in it. That's because this is a movement toy that we call a plastic spool. And a large animal, probably like a tiger with big teeth and strong claws, use this to move around their enclosure and play. Now, you might not have one of these plastic spools at home, but maybe you have a soccer ball or a basketball or a baseball. Maybe you like to do ballet or dance. something that gets you out and moving. Now our second type, number 2, is furniture. That sounds a little silly. Why would an animal care about furniture? I'm not talking about chairs and couches and tables. We're talking about something that is in an animal's home or its enclosure here at the zoo that allows them to have a different setup. Now, if your parents have ever treated you to something special, like getting a new bed, or maybe some new curtains in your room, or painting it a different color, that is part of your furniture for your enclosure, which is your room at home. This rope right here, which is nice and thick, is a great example of some furniture we could give to an animal that loves to climb and hang, maybe a monkey or even something else, would love having a big rope hung in a new place. In fact, do you ever play on the jungle gyms and hang from the monkey bars? That would be an example of your furniture outside of your house. The third type is treats. Like Kelly said, food is a great form of enrichment. We can either give the animal a special toy, like this colorful one right here, that helps the animal do some movements that it would normally do in the wild. Now, if I gave this toy to an animal like a bat, they would have to move these little plates to get inside the cup and get it a tasty treat. Or if I gave it to an animal, a bird like a lorikeet, we have lots of those here at the zoo, they might have to dip through the holes with their beak to get at something yummy inside, like a nectar. Now in the wild, bats and lorikeets would all get nectar out of flowers. So my toy here is mimicking a flower and allowing me to put yummy snacks inside. Number 4 involves the senses. I'll bet you know what our senses are. Things that we see, things we hear, things that we taste, things we touch. Those senses are going to help us have more fun. What do you think when you walk into the house and it smells like chocolate chip cookies baking in the oven? That is using your senses. Well, here I have some spice that we might give an animal in part of their enclosure. Maybe they've never smelt this smell before. Or maybe it's one of their favorite smells, and it's going to encourage them to go and investigate and check it out. Now, number 5 is kind of a different form of enrichment, but it's very important, and that is friendship. We all like to have friends, well, our animals do too. But unlike us, our animals don't go to school or the grocery store or to hang out at the park with their friends. So we have different ways to help them find friendship. That might be giving them a stuffed toy that looks like them, or it might be spending time with the keepers, using things like this target pole, which if I ask an animal, I train it to touch its nose to this pole, it will learn that when it touches its nose there, it gets one of its favorite treats to eat. Now, if I was training our tortoise red that we met, he might get some watermelon. If I was training our chinchilla, he might get a sunflower seed. But this helps them know exactly where I want them to go. And as a keeper, this allows the animal to partake or participate in their own care. So instead of having to catch the animal up and move it somewhere so I can clean its house or make sure it gets a visit from the doctor, I can use a target pole to ask it to walk somewhere and get that movement that it needs, but also help it participate in its own care. Now, Kelly has a special animal friend we're going to meet who's going to help us learn about enrichment.
Yes. We have, as soon as she decides to join us, a wonderful creature. Her name is Blossom, our saucy blonde Polish chicken. There she is. Isn't she cute? You're probably thinking, why in the world does a zoo have a chicken? Well, there's some fun things about chickens that we can see. First and foremost, she is really smart. Chickens are so smart. You can't believe how smart they are. They're easily trained. In fact, we're doing a couple of things, different types of enrichment that Jessica mentioned. In this little bucket here, I have some mealworms, which are really just bugs. And you're thinking, that's disgusting. Why would I eat a bug? Well, I'm not. The chicken is. And chickens oftentimes, hello, ma'am. She's doing whatever she wants. Hi. Chickens love bugs. What they would be doing out on a farm is out there in the grass looking for bugs all morning, all day really. And then they're going to swallow it down maybe. Nope, she's happy she found a worm. She's doing the happy worm sound here. She'll eat it eventually. So she just got a mealworm as enrichment. Now she is also looking at me, kind of interacting with me. So we're friends. Trust me, I've known her since she was about 4 days old. She's going to turn 10 this year. So we've been together for a while. So we are now in that friendship type of enrichment. And you know, one more. This towel here. You're thinking, it's just a towel. Well, chickens don't normally have towels in their house, so it's something new and interesting. Well, thank you, Blossom. You did a wonderful job with your enrichment. You're feeling not bored, right? She looks pretty happy. You guys think she's pretty happy? I think she's so happy that she's leaving us. Yeah, you actually need to go back in there, hon. Come on, great. All right, so that was Blossom, our Polish chicken, who's going to get her mealworm for doing what I asked her to do. And that really finishes up what we do here at the zoo, those 3 aspects. Jessica, you want to do a quick recap?
Yes, absolutely. So like we said, our zoo animals' diets, the food that they are given every day is very important to make sure they get healthy. Cleaning is what zookeepers spend most of their time doing. But like we heard, that's not only going to make sure that the enclosure or the home where the animal lives looks nice, it's also going to make sure that we remove anything that might carry disease or could make the animal sick. And then enrichment, those 5 things we talked about, movement, furniture, treats, our senses, and friendship are going to help the animal think and be happy. If you sat in your bedroom all day, you get pretty bored after a while if nothing changed and you never left. So enrichment is going to help us take care of those animals. Now on my board here, we have these 3 things that we've been talking about, but if you have pets at home, do you do any of these 3 things with your pets? Now your pet might not include a lion or an elephant, but I'll bet you're going to make sure your pet has the right diet or food. Well, like we said, our zoo animals get that. I'll bet your pet is going to need to be cleaned. Some of them might need to be cleaned once a week. Some of them might need to be cleaned several times a day. And your pet is also going to like enrichment, just like our zoo animals. It might not play with the same toys the zoo animals do, but it's still going to like to maybe take walks or come out and explore your room or play with you and your friends, and that's going to fall into all of those enrichment levels we talked about. All right, Kelly.
I think it's time for our questions. Because I think I had a lot of fun.
I did too. And I'm wondering if there's anything else we didn't cover that you want to learn about.
So Braylon asked the question, where do we get all of the food for our animals?
That's a great question. Depends on what the food is. A lot of our what we call produce, so our fruits, our vegetables, our lettuce, things like that come from our local grocery stores because that's the same stuff that you would be eating. Other things like that hay, the grass jerky if you will, that comes from local farmers that bale it and then drop it off for us, and we go through a lot of it, a lot of it. And then that stuff that looks like cereal, that comes from big companies that make those cereals for zoos across the nation and across the world. So it just depends, but that was a really good question. Thank you. All right, well, I'm sure we had a lot of fun today, and if you guys have other questions or would like to share some of the enrichment things you do with your pets at home, yeah, you could even do it with your siblings if you want, who knows. Please send us your videos or your questions or your ideas. And we're happy to look at those, since I know we can't come to your schools, but we really wish we could be there. And this is, I think, a good second best guess here. Good options. So we want to say farewell and hope you join us for our next Zoosday, which we will be doing exploring enrichment. No, we won't. We'll be doing exploring exhibits. There we go. I got it. I was getting ahead of myself. So we will say farewell. Thank you, guys.